Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Ray.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to start maybe with a little background, because I think this is the first time you've both been on
Yes.
our show, Salinas Now. So maybe we can start with you, Chris. You're the city attorney. Give us a little background, how you
Sure.
became involved with the city and
Sure.
what your duties are and when you were appointed.
Sure. So thank you, Ray. I was appointed city attorney in January of 2014. So like you, I'm one of two employees that works directly for the city council, so we're a little bit unique and different. I started employment with the city of Salinas in 2005, actually. I started as a part-time deputy city attorney in the city and worked my way up from there. So it's been 13, 14 years now with the city of Salinas.
Have you always wanted to be the city attorney of Salinas?
I can't say that I've always wanted to be the city attorney, but it's a great job. It's very challenging, but I love what I do. I love that I get to work with the council and you and help the city.
Yeah, you've been a great city attorney.
Thank you.
All the directors, council certainly, like what you do, respect your work, and you're always getting compliments.
I'll take mine.
I'll have to work on mine. And Liz, how long have you been with the city, and what is your position now?
I'm the deputy city clerk, and I started my employment with the city of Salinas back in January of 2008. But I started at the airport. I got hired at the airport as admin secretary, and there was a position open at the city clerk's office. I applied, and in September of 2012, I was hired.
Wow.
So I've been there ever since. So it's about 10 years that I've been with the city.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever think you'd be in the city clerk's office at all?
I didn't even know what the city clerk's office did, or what they did, or even that they existed. So it was fairly new to me, but I have to say it's one of the best employments I've ever had. It's a great position, and we have a variety of things happening on every single day. There's always something new every single day. So I enjoy what I do.
Well, that's great. You're both great employees of the city, and the city is lucky to have both of you.
Thank you.
So what we wanted to talk about today was some of the commissions, committees, boards that the city has created that citizens serve on. I know that recently, last year, you took the initiative and became the lead to help update the boards, commissions, and city committees with the council. And I think you had a subcommittee of the council that took a look at that.
Right.
So maybe you can give us a little background, Chris, in terms of the legal context, how these committees are created, whether they're in the charter or ordinance, or how they become functions of the city, how they become legal in terms of their makeup and responsibilities.
Sure. So as you know, we have several different boards and commissions. The Airport Commission and Planning Commission are two, for example. And previous to a couple of years ago, when we undertook that effort to reformat the commissions and the boards, they were embodied through different city code sections, and they were kind of sporadic. There wasn't much consistency among the regulations that pertain to the commissions in particular. And so we took a look at that, and we tried to find a way to make it more consistent across the board, so that all of the commissioners, all of the directors who serve those commissions, and the staff, like Liz, she was on the Airport Commission secretary for many years. I remember when she started in that position, because I used to serve as counsel to the Airport Commission. So we wanted to make sure also that the public understood the role of these commissions, what they do and what they do not do. So we completely revamped the city code to make sure that the different commissions and the boards were treated the same. Consistency is important. It makes the work of the city more efficient, makes the work of those commissions more efficient. Because they really do serve, I think, an important role for the city. It's the residents of the city appointed by council members, and so they provide feedback directly from the community on those commissions and the decisions that they make, and that feeds back to the city council. So they're an important part of our government institution, I think.
Right, and so there are quite a few of these, right?
That's
in
right.
terms of commissions and committees and boards.
That's right.
Can you kind of refer to a number of them? What kinds of commissions and committees and boards do we have?
So we have a couple of tax committee boards, the Measure E Committee and the Measure G Committee, and those were as a part of the tax legislation that the voters approved. And those committees are not oversight committees per se, but they do provide some commentary, some insights on the expenditure of the city's funds as they pertain to those two measures. The Planning Commission is another more significant commission. They have a lot of independent authority outside of the authority of the council. They can make decisions about land use decisions, for example. The Library and Community Services Commission deals also with recreation programs. So if there's a particular recreation program that the community is interested in, that commission will take a look at that and provide their input to the city council for some direction. The Board of Appeals, for example, they provide an appeal opportunity for folks who don't like the decision of the building official, for example. If they feel aggrieved by that somehow, they can go to that Board of Appeals. And I wanted to mention that one in particular because it's one that hasn't been formed yet. So we're looking for people who are interested and who have certain qualifications in that field to serve as members of the Board of Appeals. So if anybody's watching this show and they're interested, they can certainly contact Liz at the city clerk's office and get some more information about that.
Great. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities. So Liz, when they come in and get the application, they can do this online or in person?
You can either stop by our office, pick up the application, or you can download it on our city website. And once you fill it out, you bring it into our office, or you can mail it, fax it, or whatever your preference is. And then once we receive it, then we turn around and we, depending on the vacancies, we either keep it if there's no vacancies for when a vacancy becomes available, or we turn around and we send it to one of our council members so they can take a look at it, and depending on the review of the application, they can appoint during one of our city council meetings.
Right. So basically, if you're a resident, you usually can qualify for one of these commissions, committees, and boards.
That is correct. Yes, you have to be a resident of the city of Salinas in order to, and you have to be a registered voter in order to be able to qualify to to sit in one of the committees. Also, you're only allowed to sit on one committee because a lot of people wanting to do dual, either be part of the airport commission and be part of the the grievance board or boards of appeal. You're only allowed to be part of one, to participate in one, and not multiple ones.
So do you, through the clerk's office, check residency and voter
Yes, we do.
background?
So once we receive the application, that's one of the first things that we do. We make sure that the address is within our city limits. So we check Monterey County voter registration information. So just to make sure. And once we determine that they are a registered voter, then we go ahead with the rest of the process.
So basically, if you're a registered voter, you live inside the city,
Yes,
you actually can participate very easily, right?
that is correct.
So it's online, or you come in and fill out the form.
Yes.
And within a few days, it's you're notified, and or they know they've met the test and they're in the running or in the queue for appointment. Or
Yes, we usually try to let them know if they don't, for whatever reason, because of our city boundaries, if it turns out that they're outside of our city limits, of course, we're going to let them know right away. We don't want them waiting and to hear back from us, and they don't know that they're outside our city limits. So of course we inform them right away, and as soon as we determine their eligibility, then we turn around and we send it to our council members for appointment.
So Chris, what usually is the makeup and the term for most of these commissions, committees, and boards? And is there a certain any legal requirements in terms of attendance or those kinds of things that when they actually meet to take on whatever responsibilities that particular entity may have, whether it's a commission, board, or a committee?
So generally our commissions and boards are 7-member bodies. So each one of the different council members has an opportunity to appoint someone either from within their district or from any part of the city, because most of them now, with that recent change to the bylaws and to the city code, they can be at-large appointees. So there's a larger pool of interested folks from which the council can choose to serve in those committees and boards. The bylaws govern how those different boards and commissions operate on a day-to-day basis. So if the commissioners do not, for example, meet the attendance requirements, which is 75%, if I remember correctly, then they can be removed from the commission, because we want people who are actively participating, actively involved in the decision-making process of the city. And so that's why the city council incorporated that provision. The bylaws also specify how they behave and how they comport themselves and conduct their business when they do meet. And the city council is subject to that same set of rules. And the basic expectation is that everyone treats everyone with respect. It's something that most of us would consider basic, but sometimes people go off of the rails, and so we need a reminder from time to time that, hey, treat each other and treat the public with respect. People who are coming from the community to voice their opinions at these commissions and at these board meetings, they deserve the respect because they're taking time out of their days to come and voice their opinions, and we need to hear from the public.
So in terms of any other legal requirements, so absentee can be a cause. If they're sort of disruptive, I suppose, and they're not following the normal rules of civility at these meetings, they can be asked to leave, and otherwise, it's pretty much if they just simply follow the rules, they're in good standing.
That's right, with the exception of a couple. The Historic Resources Board has some certain qualifications for the board members. They need to be architects or folks who are interested in historic resources. The recently formed Public Arts Commission, there are certain requirements for those folks. These would be legal requirements. You have to meet the terms of the code, which say you have to be interested in the arts, you have to be an educator in the arts, or some affiliation with the arts. So those are two examples where there are some additional requirements other than just being a registered voter and a resident of the city, which need to be met in order for folks to serve on those two bodies.
And you mentioned one board that has had issues in terms of filling out the appointees.
That's right.
And that's the appeals board?
The Board of Appeals, yes.
Okay. And what does the appeals board specifically do?
The appeals board reviews decisions of the building official and the building department. If a person has a disagreement with the building official, for example, over whether a requirement is being imposed for their project, if they don't agree with that, they can take that building official's decision and take it to a board of appeals, which is a body of people who will review the application, review the decision of the building official, and make their own independent determination. So those folks who serve in that Board of Appeals need to have the qualifications of an architect, an engineer, a contractor, somebody who's qualified to look at the building code, look at the electrical code or the plumbing code, for example, and see what the application is, see what the code says, and evaluate that against what the building official's determination was, and then render a decision.
And is that decision final?
The decision is final. Anything can be appealed to court pretty much, but otherwise that's the decision that will stand.
Right. And the other commissions and committees and boards, are those are largely advisory? And
that's right.
Except for maybe some specific cases like with the Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission really is the one exception to that. They have, under the city's zoning code, which is chapter 37 of our code, they have independent authority over some land use and planning decisions. Otherwise, the commission serve, as you said, in the advisory capacity. The Airport Commission, for example, is a good example. They provide advisory opinions to the council on leases or the air show permit, anything that has to do with the airport. They make a recommendation to the city council rather than having independent decision-making authority.
Specific issues with the planning commissions, like conditional use permits.
Conditional use permits.
These are technical terms, but there are items that can be appealed to the council.
That's correct. There is a provision in the zoning code which is the primary body of law that the commission deals with. There is an appeals provision in there that says even if there's an administrative decision made by the planning manager, he has independent authority also outside of the Planning Commission, outside of the council. If an applicant doesn't agree with that decision can be appealed to the Planning Commission, and that decision of the Planning Commission can be appealed to the City Council. So there are really a couple of bodies that can render a different determination from the previous one.
And Liz, you know, the city clerk provides the clerk duties for the council. Is that the same with all the others, or is that by department, or how does that work in terms of the support of those meetings and how they function?
Typically, it's a department head that's assigned to, let's say for the Library and Community Services Commission, the Library and Community Services Director is the one that is the one assigned to that commission.
Right.
With the exception of the Measure E and Measure G, those ones, that's the only committee that we're responsible for. In terms of doing the recording of it, taking the minutes, preparing the agenda and all that, because our finance director, Matt Pressey, is the one that prepares, the material, the presentations, and does all that. But we're responsible for the agendas and the minutes and the postings and all that. And the rest of the other commissions they have somebody assigned to them. We oversee them. We make sure that the agendas are posted timely, that everything's uploaded, that the material is available online for ahead of time for the commissioners, for members of the public, or whoever would like to see them. So we do have oversight, but not directly and indirectly. Yeah, the only ones that, like I said, that we're actually directly involved with are Measure E, Measure G, and City Council.
So do the citizens that attend that are not commissioners or board members or committee members, do they log in? Do they have to sign in? They just come to the meeting, it's open, right?
Yes, it's open to everybody, so everybody can go and participate during public comment. If they have an issue with whatever issue it is that they have, they can go speak their mind for 2 minutes during public comment.
Great. Yeah. And then in terms of how the commissions and committees and boards are run, do they self-elect how the chair and how these meetings are conducted, and who sort of handles the meetings, other than the department director that might be there with staff support?
Right. So under the bylaws for the commissions and boards, there are 3 officer positions. I'll start with the secretary position because that's generally a city staff person who serves to record the minutes, to make sure that the agendas are correct and posted. Right. So that's a secretary city staff person. Then there's a chair and a vice chair of each of these commissions. Those are selected from among the members, and it's a self-selecting process. The 7 members of the commission, of the Planning Commission, for example, every year, they choose a chair. And a nomination will occur, and then they'll vote on that position, and they'll do the same thing with the vice chair. Just like the mayor serves as the chair of the city council meetings and conducts the meetings and makes sure everything stays on track according with the agenda, the chair of the commissions does the same thing. There's a script that they follow, it's the agenda, and they just make sure that everything goes according to the agenda.
Is it either one of you, your experience, that many of our council members, prior to being a council member, have served in some capacity on our commissions and boards and committees? Is that normally the case?
I can think of 2 examples. Councilmember McShane was on the Planning Commission for a while, and I believe also the Traffic and Transportation Commission. But
I believe so.
And then Councilmember Barrera was on the Airport Commission for quite a while. So those are 2 examples of sitting council members who did serve previously in commission roles. And we have a reverse situation right now where former Councilmember Jill Lutz is now serving on the Planning Commission.
So there's not a barrier or restriction for a former council member to be?
Absolutely not. They're still residents of the community
Right.
and voters, so they can serve in a commission.
The latest one is the Public Arts
Public
Commission.
Arts Commission.
And that was created by council ordinance.
That's correct. About a year ago, the City Council adopted an ordinance establishing a public art program, and did provide some funding on an annual basis for that program, and at the same time established a commission. It's a 7-member commission, as we previously discussed, and those people have certain qualifications in the arts, and so they provide recommendations and advice on our whole public art program, where pieces of art can be placed in the city, what types of art they want to see. Right now, one of the big accomplishments that they've just recently completed was a whole public art plan. They've retained a consultant to help them get through that process. So they're going to have funding, and then eventually they'll have a plan for how public art will be placed throughout the city, and how that funding should be spent. So that's a big accomplishment for that relatively new commission.
Right. But still, in the end, it's somewhat advisory, and they have to submit their recommendations on the plan and the
That's correct.
and the allocation of that money
That's correct.
to the city council for final determination.
That's correct, because that commission, none of the commissions really have independent authority to spend any of the city's money.
Right.
That is exclusively with the city council. So they'll make a recommendation to the council when that public art plan comes forward and how those funds should be spent.
So, Liz, is it required that an annual report be part of the commissions and committees, and is it filed with the clerk's office? And I think they normally have something like that. I'm not sure.
The annual report,
Some commissions probably do.
I know for Measure G, they have an audit that they review. There's a subcommittee. They meet, and then after they meet, then there's a report that they submit to the city council. In terms of the other boards, the other commissions, I don't.
Public Art
believe-
Commission, if I remember correctly, does prepare an annual
Report.
report to
I
the
think
city
that's
council,
required, right.
and I don't think that they've done that yet, but one will be forthcoming this year.
So, as we wind this interview down, what if a citizen is interested and wants to know more about, commissions, committees, and boards of the city? What's the best advice you can give them?
Call us, download the application. If you're interested in a specific commission or board or committee, give us a call. If you want to get more information in terms of what it is that they do, or you want to see past agendas, minutes, or whatever type of information, we can provide all the information that they want. If they're interested in a specific one. And if you just want to be able to serve, it doesn't matter on which one, and you're open to it, then we can let you know exactly which positions or which openings we have. We'll give you the application, and then as soon as you submit it, then we'll process it.
Great, that's wonderful. So it's a pretty open, transparent
Yes,
process.
it is.
They can look at these on streaming,
Yes.
see the video, how they're conducted, and what subjects they're talking about, and how they make their recommendation to the council.
We had, when I was at the Airport Commission, we had a commissioner that had served in the Airport Commission for a very long time. And he said that he would go and watch the city council meetings on Channel 25 because it's, you can turn to Comcast Channel 25 to be able to view the city council meetings as well. So he would turn to Channel 25 and he would watch the city council, the way it was conducted. And that's how he learned when he was appointed, or he got appointed to be chair. That's how he learned how to be a chair, watching the city council meetings as well. So, it's a good thing to have the live video streaming, because people can watch if they're interested. And if you're kind of afraid to serve because you've never been in that type of environment, you don't know what's going to happen, you can always watch and see how the meetings are conducted and learn that way, just like he did.
Yeah, it seems like we're always in need of good people to serve on
Yes.
these commissions, committees, and boards, right?
Yes, and it's always nice to have. We've never really had a list of people wanting to serve, and it would be nice to just have a list of everybody that's interested. That way, if there's a vacancy, we can fill it right away without having to maybe cancel a meeting because we don't have enough, lack of quorum.
Right.
So it would be nice to just have a running list and be able to be like, okay, the next one. So.
Has it been your experience when we change a council member, for example, do they continue the appointments of the previous council member, or do they make their own mark and have other people they would like to have serve on these
I
commissions?
think we have both.
Yeah.
We've had one council member that just wants to change everything. All his appointees, he wants different people in different commissions, and we've had like the airport commission, for example. They've had those commissioners. Well, not recently. They have new commissioners, but before. Those commissioners have been serving in the airport commission for a very long time, for years. They've gone through council members, and some of them are still there. So it depends. If there's
Right.
really no reason for them to change, sometimes they just want to keep them there, and they do. But we've had instances where somebody just wants to have just different people in there. Their appointees, and of course they're welcome to do so.
Is there an orientation? Does a new member of a commission receive some legal advice? Do they receive an orientation on how the commission operates and how they vote and how they attend and those details?
Yeah, generally they do. I know that new commissioners will often meet with key staff that commission. So they'll meet and they'll provide them the relevant documents, answer any questions, give them a general overview. One example where we did provide some more in-depth training was when the Public Art Commission came to be. The first meeting, I went to that meeting and gave them some overview of the laws that apply, open meeting requirements, agendas, and all of that, just so they had a general framework for how they were going to conduct business going forward. But we meet with the commissioners all of the time when they have questions, so it's sort of an ongoing conversation with them throughout the year to make sure that they are having their needs met so that they can provide a good service to the city.
Great. So is there anything else that you want to add in terms of commissions and committees and boards, either one of you, in terms of how they operate and what our citizens should know about them?
I would just say it's a great way, if you're interested in the city and how we function, if you have a particular area of interest, to become involved. There's not a lot of commitment in terms of time that's involved with these committees and commissions and boards. So if you want to get involved, do so. It's a great opportunity to have your voice heard and to do something that may interest you.
Great.
And typically these, most of the boards and commissions, they meet once a month.
Right.
With the exception of the Planning Commission,
That's
which
right.
meets twice a month. And our Measure G and Measure G, they meet quarterly,
Right.
and they meet as needed. So if an issue comes up and they need to meet, then we have another meeting. But typically it's once a month, so it doesn't take too much time away from other stuff. So we ask that everybody, if you want to be involved, fill out an application and turn it in.
So the city really takes an aggressive position and wants people to serve. So
Yes.
thank you both for being here. And
Sure. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks
we'll
for
get you
having us.
back on the show soon.
Thank you.